to our last meeting of the learning year. And this is quite a celebratory meeting, as you'll see in our agenda. We're here to celebrate and share information and connect lots of voices in this meeting today. And we're going to begin with our meeting by getting grounded with Sarah in a lovely way that we like to get in and focused and zone in on our work for today. So go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks for that nice introduction, Amber. And good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for carving out some time to gather. It's so important that we have this as online educators. I see a few new faces at the bottom there. Welcome, Diane. Welcome, Michael. Let's start, as always, just by taking our hands away from the computer. Some of you might have already been working for a few hours. And step your feet evenly onto the floor beneath you. And maybe even take your hands onto your lap. You can close your eyes for this. I'll just take a few moments to help us gain a little more presence, and that's one of our focuses today. So your next inhale, lift your shoulders up, lengthen through the crown of the head, and keep the crown of the head lengthened. Exhale, root the shoulders back and down. And stay there with the shoulders, but start to feel the breath moving through your entire torso. Taking some of your first few conscious breaths, perhaps, today. And just begin by simply noticing. You can notice the way the breath moves through the body, perhaps starting in a smaller area, and see if you can imagine the breath expanding. So beyond the capacity of the lungs even. Can you oxygenate all of your cells? Can you feel the vibration all the way out to your skin? And with each of your exhales now, can you really start to connect to the pelvis that is anchoring down into your seat, all the way down through the legs into your feet? And that all of our feet are actually touching the ground right now. It's a really beautiful metaphor that we are all connected, no matter where we are in the world. We're all touching that same earth. And I think we need that level of connection in this work, that we can feel that collegiality wherever we are, and we can feel that support from our colleagues. So remember that your feet are grounded here, and start to feel them a little heavier than maybe when you first stepped into the meeting. And recognize that that level of support actually energizes us. So from your legs, now start to energize all the way up and sit a little taller, lengthening now with more ease through the crown of the head. And start to take a few more deeper breaths now. I won't guide you through them today. I just want you to see if you can do this on your own. And as you breathe, I'd like to bring in a bit of an intention for this meeting. It's our last gathering together of this 2016-2017 learning year. And it feels really appropriate for the focus to be gratitude and presence. And you know, it's no coincidence that the word that reminds us of this moment is to be present, which is a similar word to a gift. And I think so often that we focus on what has happened in the past, or we are curious about what is going to happen in the future. But I invite each of you today to really sit with where you are right now as educators in this learning year, and how far you have come with all of your learners, how far you have grown with all of your colleagues, and how much you have learned about yourself. So sit with that just for a moment and take a deep breath into that space. And then with your next few breaths, you can wiggle fingers and toes, feel an awakening through your body, and allow your eyes to open on up. You have the meditative soundtrack of the Hawaiian bird population behind me as well, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Thank you, everyone, for that intentional beginning.
Thank you, Sarah. That was lovely. Way to coordinate the birds. That was really another level today. Wonderful. Well, we're going to step into our meeting with a little bit of a celebration. We know that there's so much good work that goes on behind the scenes, and we don't always get to see, we don't see all the wonderful work, the great conversations, the connections between educators and learners. And so we wanted to open some space to hear a few. And of course, there's many, many more. And the Padlet is a place that others can share some of their experiences. But we'd love to hear some voices this morning. And we've called upon a few different mentors. It would be great to hear everyone's voice, but that would be like a 6-hour meeting. So we'll just hear a few today. Thank you for those who were open to sharing a little bit about their experiences today and share a celebration. So I would love to call on Michael Bender first to share a little bit about an experience as a self-paced mentor.
Sure. I had a leadership learner this year who's a musician, amazing violinist, took a trip to Hong Kong to participate in an international orchestra, where he was a bit of a peer leader in a group of younger learners in a big orchestra. And one of the things that, some of the things that stuck out for me were the insights that he came to during this that were kind of unexpected and surprises for him. He reflected that leadership was a lot more about showing up, and being present is part of that in his definition of showing up, with the intention to connect more than anything else, rather than instruct or even model, but just connect. That he found that it was a lot more about listening than speaking, that it was more about understanding and joining rather than modeling, and that the best thing that that a leader has to offer is being themselves and offering themselves to others. Impressive young man.
I love that. It takes a lot of courage to offer yourself, and it's vulnerable. That's a beautiful place to lead from. Thank you, Michael. Oh, nice. Thanks for adding that in, Sarah. Next, if we could have Lisa, a co-design mentor, speak to the group.
Good morning, everyone. I guess I'm sort of at a loss for words as I have to come in and say something. What I have found really interesting about watching the co-design learners this year is the differences in growth, because of course we're working with such a group, and I think a lot of them have learned about themselves and how they want to learn, where they want to learn, the style that they want to learn in. And I've seen that the most with the last science, social studies, and English courses that each of the mentors have been running as groups, and who shows up and their intentions when they show up. And some of them have really blossomed. And I had one learner, for example, recently that asked me, it was so cute, asked me if it was okay, if I minded if she ran an extra tutorial for science, thinking that she would have more opportunity and time availability to offer different times that I might not be available, that she could then work with her peers. And I thought it was so neat, both the respect that she showed, but also just the desire to move forward with that. And she's also run a couple of labs with, encouraged some of the other learners to join her in doing some lab work for science. So those kinds of stories have been really neat. And I had another learner who was amazed at how much she realized that she had to schedule herself. She had to actually sit down and go, I really needed to make a schedule, and it was really important for me to learn that. And actually her mom even said one time when I was talking to both of them, how that has been such a gift for her to actually realize that organizational skill of sitting down and working out, what do I need to do to get this work done. And so that's actually been a really neat journey for her. And actually we just sat down, she asked me recently to send her emails, reminders to do her artwork. So lots of different learners. And I've had others that have decided to go more self-paced, that the group work hasn't really been working for them, and that they've decided, you know what, maybe self-paced works better for me. So a lot of different learning styles and a lot of learning about themselves this year.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice buffet and kind of indicator of how group learning can be really, really amazing and powerful for learners getting to know themselves. Next, we have Shelley speaking from the guiding mentor perspective.
Yeah, my guiding mentor perspective actually is a little bit different than most of you, because the learner that I've been working with, who just finished and graduated a couple weeks ago, we started together when he was in grade 4. And it was because of him that I actually came to the self-design high part and the guiding mentor, because in grade 9, he said, I want to stay with self-design. This is my plan, but you have to be in my plan. So is there some way, please, that you can figure out how to go with me? And I talked to Barbara and we worked it out. And there I went off on this new adventure with him. And what's neat about that is when I met him in grade 4, he knew he wanted to fly. Didn't know how he was going to do it, but he was going to fly. And he has never wavered from that path, but it's always been kind of on the side after his mom got him through his, all his curriculum learning outcomes, and he went through his high school courses. But when he got to the guiding mentor course, all of a sudden flying could become the focus. And he had a place to really formulate that goal. And he joined cadets, and last summer he got his glider license. This summer he has been accepted into the power course. He will be getting his power license this summer. And next fall, we already have plans that when I do my family visits to the Lower Mainland, I'm going to, they gave me a gift certificate for a bed and breakfast so that I could stay overnight, and he will book a plane and take me flying with him. So we've just, come from this 9-year-old boy who just had this dream, and self-design helped him hold on to that dream. And now we're at this, and it's so cool to have been a part of that.
Oh, Amber, you're muted. But that is
Sarah.
heartening. Wow, yeah.
Shelley. Thanks, Sarah. I was imagining you must have choked up at the grad ceremony. I heard it was really powerful. That would just...
I didn't choke up there. I managed to keep my cool, mostly because he had got me good a few days earlier. Because a piece of the story I haven't told you is that my dad was really into radio control planes, and my first year working with Ben, my dad died. And we had all of my dad's planes, all of his remote control equipment. And over the last few years, losing my voice, we have given Ben all of my dad's planes. And Ben started a remote control flying club at his cadets. And he's been using bits and bobs from my dad's equipment. He's restoring my dad's planes. He might not ever fly them, but he wants to clean them up and display them. And for his capstone project, he took a toolbox that my dad made to hold all of his gear, and he converted it into a kit for drones to gift to his cadet corps so that they can teach other kids how to fly. And what I didn't know, I didn't know that he was using my dad's box. I thought he was using it as a model. And so when I got his finished project, there was my dad's box, completely reworked, painted, looking fantastic. And he put a little brass plaque in it in honor of my dad. And that's where I'm going to cry now.
We'll cry with you. That's too beautiful.
It really has been a beautiful coming of age story to be with him.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing. Wow. Deep breath. And next we have Big Ideas Workshop Mentor. We have Beth to speak. Thank you, Beth.
Sheesh, how do you follow that, hey? Okay. Yeah, well, the creative writing workshop has been amazing. My little crew they feel like my cousins, like that kind of like family, but the cool part of your family, right? And you get to know each other really well, and they've just been so great. when Sarah asked me to do this, she asked me to reflect from a high school mentor's perspective. So that was actually what I had sort of prepared. So I'm going to speak to that if that's okay. It all kind of came together yesterday. It's good timing today because, like I put in the Padlet, I had a learner comment in an English 12 journal yesterday that she said, "I'd like to take the time to thank you, my mentor, for your thorough assessments of my assignments. I can feel through your comments that you put a sincere effort into understanding me as a person and a student, and your feedback is really appreciated." And like that really, I just when I read it, I just stopped and I cried a little bit, and I was like, oh man, it's a moment where all of that careful time and effort going into marking all of those English assignments that take so long to mark, it really showed me that it was all worth it in that moment, right? So all of that year's worth of work that just feels so heavy, it just shone in that moment. I was like, oh, yes, it is worth it, right? To get that feedback, work on that connection. And interestingly enough, this learner to start was one of those where we took weeks trying to coordinate the meet and greet. Like, she's cross enrolled, and I thought, oh my God, it's going to be one of those situations, right? and just, stayed the course, took the time that it took to get to know her, took the time it took to connect with her through her assignments, and it all came together. So I know it seems really like kind of simple, but I was really, I was kind of enriched, and I wrote, it just sort of filled my cup as a mentor, because all that marking can just feel really like a lot of work, and not necessarily the most exciting part of it, but it's super important, right, to get that feedback and positive feedback. It's pivotal in the learning experience, and that attunement to the learner just really showed up in that moment for me.
Oh, thank you, Beth. That's wonderful. So great too when a learner can articulate that appreciation back to you.
Yeah, feels good for sure. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Thank you. We have time for one little short from someone who'd like to speak to face-to-face experiences. Sarah, did you have someone in particular in
I think
mind?
Allison was coming ready for that one, or Diane. I'm not sure who. I'm sure we could talk about that for the whole meeting as well, because there's so much richness there.
Yeah.
Diane, why don't you talk about the grad? It was so fresh.
Okay. I was just writing tablet. I'm sorry, my dog. Just let me. I was just writing that in the Padlet. It's just quite something as the letters start pouring in from grads themselves. A lot of grads have emailed me, sent little messages thanking us all for the opportunity to actually wear a fancy dress and show up at a ceremony that was geared to walking through that threshold and recognizing the need to actually celebrate this transition in their lives. And it was very special. Many of the grads met on Friday night or Friday afternoon after encounters. Some of them were part of encounters, and they met and they gathered, and we were able to have some icebreaker moments. Some of them had never been with anyone before and discovered that they lived a block away from another for years, and so that was an awesome moment. And the value of the kind of connection made through encounters in other workshops in the past was expressed. The fact that this was their moment, that they were social, they spent a lot of time on their own, in their own houses, in their own little lives, and their own little friends, and that they were literally sitting on top of each other many of the times. And there were 2 grads who met for the first time at the grad, and they've continued a sweet little relationship ever since. One of them just sent me a message this morning. So it just reminds me of the value of those up close and personal kind of relationship encounters, and the things that can happen, the chemistry that happened, the meeting, social meeting of the other, and the level of appreciation from the parents and the kids themselves continues. So it was very strong. It was sweet, and I would say the number one thing that I'm hearing from the girls was, and I hate to say the girls, the boys probably love dressing up too, but I'm really hearing it from the girls, the opportunity to wear a really fancy dress. And one girl said, "I'm keeping this forever, in my closet." It was just meant everything to her to be able to do this. So, and they are, I feel like the only thing that I have to say is that it's always a transition. The grad is a farewell, and you have to let them go. And I feel like I fall in love with them all over again. Some of them I know through my course in Grad Trans, and some of them I've just met because they're not on the Dogwood. And there's that meeting, and then you just don't want to let them go. It's very sweet. So I've had a few ask if they could be Facebook friends. There's just that level of, okay, now we're meeting, So it's very sweet.
Oh, thank you so much, Diane.
I appreciate,
we could feel it from here. I think everyone felt it. Sorry, someone chimed up. Who was that?
Angela, I just want to jump in and mention my appreciation. I got to be at grad, and it was so lovely. And I really appreciate, Diane, you mentioning one of the things that was significant that we might not realize, just that dressing up, that formal event, that ability to participate with others in a formal way. And I've noticed that with the homeschooling community that my kids are involved in. And in Los Angeles, there's a really vibrant community that organizes a homeschool prom every year. And it's a full-on event. And for these kids to have that experience, to not have to go to a brick and mortar to get it. And I feel like in addition to grad, that just as you said that, Diane, I want to plant the seed that why wouldn't we do that? It's not happening in BC yet. And wouldn't it be lovely if we're the ones who do it for kids? In LA, it's parent organized, but there's no reason it couldn't be self-design organized to offer this for youth who clearly really want that.
Wonderful, neat, lots of excitement for possibilities. Great. Well, thank you everyone who shared some experiences, and so many of us have many different touching moments that we can put on the Padlet, and then everyone can appreciate them. So take a moment, pop in your thoughts and your experiences there. We're going to move into our next portion of the meeting, which is CAT update on completion plans.
I can start this off, and I just want to reiterate what Amber said, that we know we could talk the whole meeting about how amazing all of our experiences are, and it was, so that's why we have that Padlet, and I really want your thoughts, I want your stories in there, I really want to capture it, because I think it's a beautiful process for us to do at this time of year, and just to hold that level of value of all of the moments that we've had that light us up. That's a really good thing to do on a regular basis, so jump in there, or hang out afterwards and tell me if you want to get it out there. And I also am very, very grateful for everyone who spoke up. And this next one, although it seems a little polar opposite, it's not, because the whole goal of CAT is our contact assistance team is designed to support our learners. And we've seen amazing things come out of CAT this year. And it's really I think the first year where we nailed CAT, the CAT team and the high school mentors really work together to do, I think, the best job that we possibly could. And we're still in that process, but I just saw and continue to see so many amazing levels of communication guided by Clarissa and the team. And for that, wow, thank you so much, because that is the behind the scenes stuff that we don't recognize how valuable it is. But I know that I felt it as a mentor this year, and I love having different hats in this organization, because the moments when I'm a mentor and I reach out to Clarissa and say, I need some assistance, you know, can you help me piece this together? I can't get a hold of this learner. And I can kind of take that off my chest, and I don't spend all of my hours dealing with that. Suddenly we've created a wonderful system that jumps in. And I know we've all felt that. So the beginning is, of course, a celebration now to all of the people that support the behind the scenes work that we do. And, you know, Kat is one of many of those teams. So I just wanted to say thank you, Clarissa, for leading that team and for being so intentional in your work this year with that. And this little piece, Clarissa can probably speak to it a little bit better than I can. I just wanted to voice a couple updates on these completion plans, because it really is, you know, that time of the year. You know, it's June 1st. How is that possible? So we're moving into this final stage, as we called it in our letter that we sent out to you all at the end of last week. So Clarissa, do you want to speak to that? And I can chime in as you need me.
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Sarah, and thanks for the sweet comments in the chat, everybody. Well, I love the celebratory feeling of this meeting, and I kind of felt like, oh, I don't want to come in with some business. You know, I think I want to continue the celebration because it's been a huge learning curve, and I think I spoke to it at the very beginning of the year, and the new constellation of the CAT team supporting mentors and guiding mentors this year, you know, several of us were on a huge learning curve, and we had mutual support. You know, there was a lot of support and understanding and patience by all of you. And Vanessa, you were key in our onboarding, and Sarah as well. So thank you. It feels like a really wonderful testament to the belief in this team approach that we have here. And so I'm just noticing through the year the growing goodwill and the growing and I know it's likely always been there, but it's me kind of tapping more into it and having access to so many more of you, and noticing that the focus on the learner has been so acute, and I really, really appreciate, and I'm in awe of the skills that you're all bringing to the work that you're doing with learners, because the adolescent age group, it's a different dance. So thank you so much for that. And I know that you're continuing to do amazing work with the completion plan process, and in CAT we've been handling, you know, documenting and filing and supporting the completion planning process for individual course-based plans, and then the co-design completion plans have been different. So I don't have an eye into that, but what I do have an eye on is the approximately 185 completion plans that we've processed this spring, and it's been immense. And I know so many of you are doing a lot of work, you know, communicating with your learners and walking them through the process, and having to sort of hear how the learners are understanding this process and meeting them where they're at as well. And I know that there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes from your side of things as well. So we've sent out the reminder about the June 30th date, and I'm thinking that just sort of given the timing of the end of June and teams wrapping things up, and some of the work coming at the CAT team from different directions, around the halfway mark in June will be a good time if you're noticing anyone who you haven't seen for a while. Get in touch with us, and we can support you if you feel you need that in terms of redirecting the learner's attention to their completion plan. That's all I basically wanted to say. I just keep your eyes open for the other reminder, and I know so many of you have your great systems that you've developed over the years in terms of keeping track of your learners. Are there any questions or comments? And just let me just say one thing. Like, I know that we don't have a lot of time here, but if you do have feedback, and I know things are changing, but the CAT will be here supporting courses next year in 11 and 12 in a similar way. Things will be evolving, and you'll get some messaging in the summer about that. But if you do have feedback, feel free to email me. Maybe you've already, feel you've been invited into that by Sarah, but just know that we want to continue to develop our systems in a way that meets the needs best. So just putting it out there. So yeah, any questions? I know we're sort of ticking along with our time here, but if...
Okay, Claire, so there's a question from Travis.
Okay.
For a lot of my learners, I've noticed that some of them just really aren't going to get finished by June 30th, particularly the SE learners, which I have a lot of. So I've been trying to assign completion dates into up to, say, August 30th for some of them. For those learners, is it okay if they just do their final quiz in early September? Would they still be technically meeting the terms of the completion plan if they do that final quiz in early September? Because some of them really need that, and I know that was an option for the SE learners.
That's a really great question that I'd love to hear the answer to.
Because I really hope it is.
Support the process, but the sort of decision making around that, is that something that can come through right now from someone else?
Yeah, because I know we're not booking final quizzes in July or August, and I've mentioned this to some of my kids. I was even on the phone with a parent last night because I did a completion plan with her son, but I didn't file it yet because I wanted the mother to get a chance to look at it, because she knew some things about their summer vacation that myself and that learner didn't know. So now she's trying to firm up the dates. And if that learner needs extra time, I was saying then he might do his final quiz in September. This is not an SE learner, by the way. This is just a kid who was really struggling in the course.
So we had set the date of September 30th as the final date for learners in SE, that in recognition of the fact that a little more time is often needed. Mm-hmm. As we all know, it does get pretty busy in September. So one of the reasons we also encourage folks to, maybe choose August 30th if they can, and use September 30th as a in their back pocket kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that scenario that you've described, Travis, mm-hmm. is perfect. The coursework will be finished. Just one task left to do, but I would encourage you to make the completion plan later, mm-hmm. knowing that, so that everything comes inside the completion plan. Because as you know, the date has to correspond with a grade. Mm-hmm. So if you stretch the date out later for that learner, knowing the scenario, then it will all tuck under the completion time frame that you gave.
Okay, so if I were to say September 5th as an end date, then that would also give them time to do their final quiz on for September 5th or on September 5th then.
Yeah, or even a little later. That's fine. It's just a goalpost, really. So, to give yourself a bit of, leeway in there. You can make it for September 15th or so you're not cutting it right to the quick there.
Okay, thank you. Whew, okay, load off my mind.
Thanks, Travis. And just to say, with regard to extensions, I know it's been in the messaging. So Vanessa, I really appreciate the way that you framed it up. If we keep in mind all of the factors required to support a learner in finishing successfully within the bounds of the completion plan, and it seems like an extension is needed, could you please respond to the email that we sent you in response to your CAF form? It has a case number in the subject line, and just let us know that you've talked with the learner and the parent about an extension, and we can complete the documentation on sort of the admin side of things around the one-time extension.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the input. That's fantastic.
Nice, great question, Travis. We have two more questions, one from Heather, one from Diane, and then I mentioned in the chat box that I'd like to hold any more questions about this until the end of the meeting, or Clarissa said like she is so happy to receive emails about these kind of specific case-by-case scenarios. But yeah, Heather, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I guess I just want to get some clarity around what happens on July 1st. Okay, like when we have learners that have not reached their completion plan, what is the final report going to look like? I just want to be really clear on that process. And what do we do with learners that are they understand the completion plan, they've been on it, you've been in communication with them this whole time, they've been slowly chipping away, and then June 30th comes and they have one or two things left. Where's the gray area there? I'm just not sure how to, because I can sense that coming from a few of my learners because they've never experienced this kind of hard deadline before from Self-Design High. So I'm just kind of a little bit weary and not sure exactly what happens at midnight, when we turns into a pumpkin kind of thing. Yeah, so I just want to be really clear about that.
You or me, Sarah?
Can you grab this one, Vanessa? I was just changing positions, so I think that you might be able to answer it more clearly.
Nothing special will happen at midnight, unfortunately. Sorry to dash your hopes there for a magical transformational experience. Yeah, we of course want to hold the learners learning at the center of what we're doing and make sure that there is the best possibility for success. So yeah, the one or two assignments thing, puts you into that funny zone of, it also puts the learner into the zone of they're still obviously passing the course too, right? So ultimately what we're saying is when there is a completion plan, a grade gets posted, full stop. That's what we're saying. That is the completion plan, protocol there. So keep an eye on those situations where, you can say to a learner, a last appeal, hey, I'm going to post your grade this day. And you only have one assignment. Come on, you can do it. Go for it, right? That kind of thing. But ultimately, we're posting grades. And then if a learner, of course, is saying to you, no, oops, I gapped on that and I really I need a little bit more time. Well, then there we have a situation where the learner is asking for an extension. You grant an extension. We have space for that too.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Vanessa. Can I just say one hopefully quick thing? Yeah, so Dan, you've picked up on it. It's tricky because I know you're all holding a huge roster, and so I can really empathize with the fact that tracking so closely, have an eye on specifically on each learner's flow through the next month, it's likely impossible. But if you had a process with your learners over the next month, then, giving a 2-week window for their finish date, if you're noticing, sort of predicting their pace, we can certainly support you in communicating anything, or even, just being a sounding board. We want success for everyone, including your reduction of stress levels. So if you can predict a situation where a learner needs a little bit of, just a little bit of an outside, hey, what do you need? We haven't seen you. How's it going? We see it. Do you see it? We see the end coming, and how are you doing with that? We're absolutely able to support you with that.
Are we feeling ready to move on to the next topic? There's probably a few more questions. Sarah, your suggestion was to wait until the end, or for people to email Clarissa specifically. Is that what
I did group Diane into the section where I was inviting Diane to vocalize a question as well, and then anyone after Diane. However, we might have kind of answered enough for now, and you might be able to ask her specifically after. Diane, You can choose.
Well, I think mine might relate to a lot of other people, so I think I'd like to ask it. Jump in there. So I've just got 3 new learners this week. And though I have been doing completion plan, they certainly won't. They're registering for next year, and they're registering now. And I'm doing my meet and greets now, and they're planning on taking the summer off and coming into next year. So can you respond to that? I'm sure I'm not the only one with new learners for next year.
And Nita, do you want to speak to that? Because you kind of just sent out a bit of an email about some learners that will be in that scenario for grade 11 and 12.
Mm-hmm. So the current live registration form that's out there right now for learners is 2016-2017, and that form is going to be closed on June 5th for learners in that, so for this learning year. So I'm curious, the learners that you are potentially getting that are registering with you, that are communicating that they want to start next year. So you say you have 3 that have just come in that way.
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they need to be held in a different way, obviously, because they're not technically part of this learning year. I don't know, Vanessa, maybe you want to speak to this, because I'm not sure where they're landing then in terms of in terms of contracts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, in the note, thanks everyone. In the note Anita sent out, basically, so it depends if they're, Diana, any of these guiding mentor learners?
No.
No, okay.
For grad trans, and I just met with one yesterday, and he wasn't. I said, well, if you could basically work with the first activation, we'll get you through activation now, and then you can do everything else in August, September. But no, their completion, and I go through that with them, but they're planning on finishing by January 2018.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to not carry unactivated courses over this break kind of that we're having here. So that's key, that yes, working to activation. Depending on what the scenario is, the contract question, it will either go on to this year's or carry over onto the first of your learners for next year's list. And the interesting thing that appears in this scenario is the question of maintaining our commitment to weekly educational contact with each of our learners. So we do know that we have these places where we can say this learner's on a break, and we can document that and say, yeah, learner's taking a break. The whole summer is a little tricky in that way, because one would argue, well, why sign up now if you're just going to go, if you're just going to start later on. So I would check in with your learners to see because if they can't maintain contact with you over the summer, we might as well have them sign up to start their work when they're about to start their work. Otherwise, we're not keeping our agreement for weekly educational contact, and we need to.
And maybe I can add to that as well, Vanessa and Diane. Just so I mentioned the June 5th cutoff for the 2016-2017 learning year. And then in terms of how learners' registrations will be handled for the next learning year, that's in conversation. We're having a discussion about that right now, but we're looking at doing it in such a way that it doesn't, that it won't automatically land on the mentor's lap to have to do that weekly. So we're holding those registrations, but you're not actually, the learner's not actually officially registered, or it's not processed, sorry, until August sometime. So where it would make sense that they would be getting going with their mentors in a certain way, and then that weekly contact is going to happen then. So that's behind the scenes. We're kind of working those pieces out, but that will be looked at so that you will have learners able to express what they want to do coming into fall, but not where it's on the plate of the mentor to figure out how to now keep them engaged when they clearly don't want to start yet. And we don't want them to be starting yet. We want them to have a later start time anyways. So yeah, and more communication about that will come out, especially with regards to guiding mentors. within the next week even.
Nice, Anissa. Thank you for that. And I do feel like those questions are well answered. I'm sure there's going to continue being some more, but yeah, stay tuned for all of these wonderful updates that we've been getting about what to do in this time of year in terms of course registrations. Feel okay about heading forward there, Amber?
Yeah, absolutely. And next we have grade 10 updates. I believe this is going to be Angela that's going to speak to our grade 10 updates.
Yeah, I think there's pre-reads that hopefully you've had for some time in the agenda, and then just wanted to open it up to any additional questions that perhaps are not answered there in that information. Wanting to make sure everyone's getting the e-blasts, and please do let me know if you're getting missed on that. There's been 6 so far. It's another big exciting one next week that will come out, that will have a teaser for each of the themes so that learners and families and educators can get a sense of what 1 week feels like in terms of workflow. I think it speaks a bit to your question, Dan, about a learner who perhaps would feel like they could only do the adult dogwood. In the past, it felt like too much for learners to do 8 courses a year. And that's just so different this time. It was hard even to answer your question because it's just a whole different way of looking at it. It's not courses. So when we think about, can they only do the 5 courses for the adult dogwood, they don't pull apart like that. It's all one thing. It's like when we do a hybrid vegetable or something, we can't then turn it back into a zucchini and a cucumber because it's one. So that, I think those theme teasers will help to see that, to get a feel for what a week's amount of work will be like, and to see your learner into that, and then truly get a sense of what kind of adaptations might be needed. Some learners will still need adaptations, but certainly not to the level we've had to do in the past for specifically for our SE learners. So yeah, please have a look at all that information. Please let me know if you're not getting those e-blasts, because that is, the up-to-date, up-to-the-minute development things that are happening. And for right now, just please ask your questions if you want to get some real-time discussion on this.
See any questions in the chat box yet? So that might be good. We all know that we can go into the contractors and actually there's a wonderful where there are the recorded conversations and open houses that have been hosted, the frequently asked questions about the grade 10 learning year, and all of the e-blasts. Those are all linked in the contractors lounge. So make sure you go there and familiarize yourself with those places, because we can't all, stay on top of all of our emails in the live moment sometimes, and you might skip through some things. So make sure you go there and you've read all of those e-blasts, because as Angela said, it's a wonderful way to stay informed. Question from Travis in the chat box. Angela, will there be another info session?
So there is an open house next week, Friday, and that was announced in this last e-blast. There'll be another more information about that in the next e-blast with specifics, so some pre-reading, I guess you would call it, to look at those teasers, with the open house happening at the end of the week so that people have, so the e-blast will come out on Monday, and then the open house is on Friday. So hopefully it gives people enough time to have a look at the information in the e-blast and then come as an informed audience to the Friday open house.
Nice. That's the June 9th Friday.
That's right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Amber. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for now, or are people going to save their questions for the open house? Another place for questions is in the contractor forum. There is a forum there in the contractors lounge. There is a forum as well that I believe, Angela, you're answering a lot of questions there. So that's another place that if you want to look through the information and you have some thoughts or some questions, then you can pop in there and then those will be answered as well. Yeah. Great. Well, then moving right along here, we're going to move into some grade 11 and 12 updates. And first we have Allison speaking to Guiding Mentor.
Thanks, Amber. So yeah, I could pick up a tiny bit on the questions before. A lot of change, a lot of trying to figure out the back end of things. And so we're at the point now where we're realizing, given the platform changes and how we want to really see completions and then fresh starts in September, we're still tuning at the back end. For GMs, and there is an orientation on Monday, 10 o'clock, and if you have any questions before then or needs or can't come, please make sure you contact me, or if I haven't reached out to you or we haven't had conversation, please make sure you do, because I'll really have the information there for you GMs, so that when I start to do next week, we're going to start to have some matching happening. And like in other years, we've found that when we are able to match before summertime, it relieves a lot of anxiety with learners and families about what the next year is going to look like and the choices they have to make and all of that. So we are establishing a special protocol for this month, so that I will match learners, and I will always try and carry through GMs with learners that if you've had them in grade 10 and there's a request to carry on, I will do that, absolutely honor that. And I know that some pods from grade 10 co-design are wanting to carry on, which I think will be fantastic. Sarah had an excellent experience with that this year. So what will happen is, I will match learners and GMs, and you will then have a chance to connect with them. And don't worry, you will have all the information that's this new stuff, because there's some new stuff. There's lots of familiar threads, but there's some new stuff in terms of what we're offering and how we're offering it next year. And you'll have all of that, so you can really be there to facilitate their understanding of what their options are and even make decisions about registration. We won't actually get them started in any of those courses yet. We can hold that until August, so we don't have that problem, Diane, that you're talking about. But we do actually meet their needs to have more of a sense of security about what's going to happen for them next year. So there will be matching next week, and then hopefully you'll be able to have contact with your GM learners over the next few weeks, and take notes and make decisions about their registration options to come. Okay, but please, we're going to have a nice orientation session on Monday, and so you can email me before then or bring your questions in when I share more documents and stuff. I wanted to, I started at the end of what I wanted to talk about just because I wanted to pick up on the thread, but really I want to assure GMs that we still get to do all the great stuff that we've been doing in the last few years as GMs. It is primarily the same thing. We're there to support the learning goals and interests and passions of the learner in a holistic way. The first step, though, is this more kind of administrative thing that really alleviates and makes space for that developing relationship and conversation that we get to enjoy for the rest of the year. So we're still doing that, absolutely. We're still going to have e-portfolios. Not going to be in Mahara, and probably most of you are thinking, yay. I mean, I have seen some really great portfolios in Mahara, and it just hasn't been the most intuitive, and probably more a reflection of me than anything. But I have to say that from what I hear from learners too, they're not happy to see that will be one of the changes. And along with that, as you know, we're going to be in PowerSchool, and the GM will be in there, and there's going to be more coherence in that we're going to use the e-portfolio that PowerSchool provides. And so the coherence for the grade 10s and how they're going to be doing their things, and we're going to bring that into our practices again, also as GM for GM 11 and 12. But yeah, so we really want to work on the integration element as well between courses and the GM, like other courses and program offerings that your learners are doing. And some of that is, or I know that has happened already with in this last year and the year before, when learners were doing other courses and they wanted to bring specific things in to their e-portfolio because it really was something they wanted to celebrate or acknowledge that this was hard learning, this was good learning, this is something I'm thrilled about, or this is something that's led me to a place of identifying my next question or questions. So we're developing the tools to really have that integrated even more into the GM in terms of the relationship between courses that are happening in each learner's personalized plan and the GM. And Anisha will speak more to the learning highlights, which is one of the ways that we will do that. And I'll leave that to you, Anita, but that's, it's a very easy way for us and for learners to make sense of, oh yeah, it's not a weird thing for me to say that what I'm doing in my creative writing course can find its way into my GM portfolio. So I'll leave more of that to you, Anita. I know we're on a bit of a time crunch. What else do I want to make sure to touch on? We're going to be really trying to work with our rhythms as well and bringing coherence between the grade 10 and 11 and 12 in rhythms, and you'll have information about that as we get all those dates and things worked out, and I'll have that for Monday. And we'll get time to figure out how to be in Power School as well. Don't worry about that. It's I think most of you have experience in there, and I think you'll find it very intuitive and not a complicated learn there. And we'll still be able to use, the Google Suite. We have access to those even while in Google. So if learners really like to use even while we're in the Power School. So even if they do like to use some of the tools of Google, that they can easily find their way in there. Anything else I want to mention here? Are there any questions about? Yeah, I think that's good. I welcome you to contact me, and I look forward to meeting with you all on Monday. And let me know if you can, and we will record it, of course, and have everything available to anybody who cannot come. Just know the fabulous work that you've been doing is carrying on, and it is so exciting. Oh, I should have said, maybe it's not obvious to everybody, but all learners for whom self-design is their SOR, their school of record, all learners in 11 and 12 will have a GM. And which just, for me, it's just like, yes, it's an honoring and a recognition that this role, given who we are as self-design, giving our values and our pedagogical approach, it really honors that role that we've been developing over the last few years, and it honors you because you do a great job. So I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, Allison. And I don't see any questions so far in the chat box. So maybe we'll jump into the next chunk around grade 11 and 12 updates and bring in Mark to speak about thematic workshop offerings. Mark, are you there? Oh, I think you're muted still. We can't quite hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
You sure can, thank you.
Oh, okay. My little clip was pressed down. Yeah, as you see, there's a couple of links. I just put a second one in there. The first one is the part of the email that went out that lists the co-design theme pods that we're offering, workshops that we're offering. And as you see, we had 2 in the past, and only one of which is actually currently in operation. And next year, partially due to the the expansion of the new curriculum, some of you probably know that if you've had a look at the new curriculum, in grade 11, Socials 11 is gone and has been replaced by I think it's 7 or 8 or even more separate course possibilities that meet that grade 11 required course for a Dogwood. And same with English 11. There's a whole bunch of new courses like creative writing and film and television writing, and a whole variety of things that meet that criteria. So it really lends itself to, for us to open up these thematic offerings more. So that's kind of exciting. And we've did a lot of sort of brainstorming work about what kind of themes we could offer, and then what kind of courses could go with that. So the second little link I just put in was just a look at, again, very much a draft of these offerings in grade 11 and 12 in the fall and in the spring sessions, and some of the courses that could be blended to meet that theme. And a number of these offerings, sorry, whoever's typing, could you mute? Thanks. A lot of these themes came from wanting to represent, they tend to be more in the past have been in the humanities and the arts. So we wanted to have more science and maths there to balance that out. And we looked really closely at the ideas that came from learners around the grade 10 redesign when they were surveyed around that. And we kind of combed over that and tried to pull out some of those requested interests and build those into what more or less what we have there, which is the draft at the moment. Yeah, so that's what's been being put out there. We had a nice open house last night, and a number of parents and learners attended, and that went really well. And in terms of who's actually going to be doing the pods, that's not determined yet. We didn't really look at that question closely enough yet, so we will be looking at who's certified and open to doing that, and putting more information about that. So you might see some in there that you're interested in, and yeah, that'll be coming just a little bit down the road. Any questions at this point? I don't see any in the chat box. Oh, Diane has a hand up.
Sorry, just unmuting. Just a quick one. I actually just, are you still looking for mentors for some of those courses? So
yeah, we will be, yeah.
How are you choosing the mentors for them?
Sorry, Dan, I didn't get the question part.
How are you choosing the mentors for them? When I was looking at what went down, basically, are they in the workshop librarian part? Are they in the or are they moving into the co-design? I'm just a little confused.
These are just for 11 and 12 next year.
That's right. So
yeah, so it's a different model. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's teaching them?
Like I was just saying, we don't know yet, and that those.
Vanessa wants to jump in here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Vanessa, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Just to make it simple, maybe in the last few years, the way it has worked is that Terry, together with Paul, give a projection. Hey, here's how many kids we think we'll have in courses. This will be the same idea, given that they're either going to be workshop. How many kids will we have registered in these various things? And then we take our pool of high school mentors, make sure we have enough to cover the maths, the sciences, the humanities, all of that, and then we divvy them up with the best projection we can of contract size for those. So it's going to be the same process.
Impressive. Okay, thank
you. 5 or 8 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one difference from the past to now is that in that draft form, you'll see put a lot of a number of those courses in red, and those are courses that are required for Dogwood. So what we're trying to do also is offer more of those required courses, because we think that'll be an added incentive to, because if you're getting 2 or 3 of your required courses that way, it'll be an added incentive for learners to register. And then also the fact that there's a fall and a spring offering, they could potentially get a number of the courses that they want through just going in, maybe not just going in, but primarily going through work in the thematic pods. So yeah, nice development, and it sort of parallels what's happening at the grade 10 level, and into the future, we're looking at it as the gathering of a lot of resources too for when the redesign moves into the 11 and 12 space. So there's kind of a dovetailing and synchronicity there.
Nice. Looks like Heather has her hand up.
Just a quick question about those timelines. Do those correspond with like public school schedule semesters? So like if a learner was at a public school for the fall session, they could do a spring for in this, for example?
Yeah, I think so. We currently the sessions last basically a term, sort of mid-September to early December, and then early February to early June, more or less. Meeting twice a week. It's a nice pattern now and sort of structure to it that's been developed over the last couple of years. So anyone who gets involved in it next year, we can lean into sort of a well-developed structure and format for doing it. And yeah, it is exciting, Beth. The expansion of our thematic learning is a really exciting development. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Someone has a question. Oh, sorry.
Can I jump in? I had a question. Mark, one question that I had from one of my learners is, what if they wanted to take a session in the fall, whatever it is, let's say ecology, but then weren't interested in any of the sessions in the spring? Can they just be part of that one session and then do the rest of their courses self-paced?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's all very flexible. There's no musts or requirements. You just, and then this is where the GM role will come in a little bit too. We're going to make sure that Allison's going to make sure that we're going to make sure that the GMs are really can help learners make choices around potentially joining some of the co-design groups and what courses they'll get from that, and then which ones they'll want to do self-paced, and maybe some of them are big ideas. So it's looking at the self-paced, the co-design, and the big ideas, and seeing with the help of guiding mentors how their year can, with all these different offerings, that they can pick and choose from these different things to make up their year.
Can I ask one more? What if would it be too much if they took 2 workshop sessions in a session? So if they took Teens in Space and Ecology, for example, which are both fall sessions, is that too much, or would that also work well together?
My sense, having been like a facilitator for a while now, is that it's not too much. And partially because in the session itself, we're actually doing a lot of activities that meet some of the learning outcomes in the courses. So it's not just where we get together and talk for 2 hours and then you go and do everything that you need to do outside to meet those learning outcomes. The actual activity of participating in the sessions and the work you do in them partially meets those. And there's five artifacts and a small number of assignments that go along with the work too. So my sense is that it would be kind of an exciting way to do your year, to do 2 pods in the fall and 2 pods in the spring.
I love that. And if I could just speak to the scheduling of that I think that let's make a note that when we do have educators to be facilitating these, that there's communication amongst the educators, so we're not setting the schedules on the same time, so we keep it kind of open for learners to be able to choose that schedule for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because ultimately, if with one co-design workshop, they would be meeting twice a week. So if a learner signed up for 2, then that's 4 days a week. You're in a live, conversation, and also live, time to work together as a group, to work through work, to satisfy 6 courses. In that case, it would be satisfying. So.
And I think those, we recognize the need in learners more and more to be with peer groups and to interact in this way. And I think it's for those learners who especially want that, this is a really great offering for them. If part of their need and want is to maximize that kind of interaction with peers and face-to-face, then this would really meet them.
Nice. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Moving on to Anita to talk briefly about updates to Moodle courses.
Great, thanks, Amber. Yeah. Before I jump into that, I just want to also drop in a link to the co-design workshop application form, which learners are invited to fill out. it's not an official registration, so they're welcome to come in and just start selecting, making notice of what workshop themes they're interested in. And then the information that's collected here will support our guiding mentors when the time comes to sit down and look at what learners are looking for the learning year. So
yeah, if I could just say, if all of you would be willing to copy that link and send it out to your learners in various courses, and with the title of an application, not an actual registration, but an application, and that would really help us get a sense of the interest. We've had one of them out already, and we've been gaining information from that. But if you could copy the link and send it out as one of your weekly posts, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so the link has gone out in various places, and it will continue to, but it definitely helps to have it coming from mentors as well, especially if you know of a learner that you think this would be a really great fit for. So just wanted to share that before jumping in to talking about Moodle. So updates to Moodle courses for the fall. There's a few things worth noting. The meet and greet document, we've made some slight tweaks to. So that will be linked in. Okay, well, maybe before I jump in there, it's good to note that because we have these completion plans in place and because we have learners that are being wrapped up in a certain way for the first time, really, it's allowing us to make updates to all of our Moodle courses at once in one large sweep. And so all of our courses, all of our self-paced courses moving into the fall will be new. And so that's where learners will be starting. That's where mentors will be meeting them in these new spaces. And it will, for the most part, unanimously be where all of your work will happen in one Moodle course, which I think is pretty amazing when a lot of us have had to like straddle and juggle 3, maybe 4 Moodle courses depending on updates over this stretch of years. And so it's nice we're getting an opportunity to make a fresh start there for the fall. So there is a new meet and greet document that will be linked in to these new courses, and it's not a lot of changes there. It's pretty much the same, but there's a few tweaks. And so definitely worth noting for those of you that have a version of that stored in your drive, potentially, that just to know that there is an update so that you can update that for yourself wherever it is that you've been storing it in your workflow best practices. And I'll just jump ahead in the notes too, just to say that we've also simplified the wrap-up process. And so there's a little bit less there that's required of learners so that they can basically tie things up with you. And so you'll see that also showing up in the new courses, which is exciting. And one piece that's been added, and I know we did touch on it in the last mentor meeting that we had, and it was presented as that we would be adding e-portfolios to all of our Moodle courses. And I can distinctly recall seeing all this body language of some of you just being like, oh my God, what? Because in the past we've tried that, and unfortunately it's often felt like an extra piece. And so what we've done instead is we're really leaning on this whole notion that the guiding mentor is the space where learners will be looking at their learning year in a really comprehensive way. And so why not really lean into, these course learning that they're doing to end that experience with a mentor in a really self-reflective way, to really bring to light the work that they've done that they want to highlight, and to consider that let's do that as a process with the course mentor and catch it in a way that it can then be shared with a guiding mentor. And so what we've done is we've taken this whole notion that an e-portfolio would be developed in each and every distinct course, and we've just instead included this great comprehensive self-assessment process, which is what we're calling the SD Learning Highlights. And it is linked in the notes if you want to take a preview look at it. We're pretty happy with where we've landed with it. We've actually taken quite a few weeks and actually more than weeks, to really kind of work out exactly where we wanted to bring this. So we're pretty happy with the end result. And I think you will be too. And by doing this, it really did allow us to simplify our wrap-up processes and to really kind of, and anywhere that we have that in courses where there is already a self-reflective or self-assessment piece, this will replace that. And it will be pretty comprehensive across all of our courses, because we did design it in a way that it will be useful in any kind of course. Humanities or science or math. It doesn't matter. It will satisfy all of those courses. So take a look at it, and we will touch more on it in August when we do our orientation. And Amber has her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Anita. I was curious about, so are you saying that this one learner highlight document, this is a place where everything, like all courses get talked about and they just do the one rather than in every course having to do this?
They do this as part of their wrap up to each course. So it still is distinct to the course that they're completing.
But it's one document for all the courses.
No, sorry, that's maybe confusing how I presented that. It's one document per course. So they do a learning highlights process at the end of each of their courses. And then they can tag their guiding mentor. They go back to their guiding mentor. They say, I just finished this course, and hey, through this process, I'm really excited to bring this one artifact potentially into my guiding mentor e-portfolio, because they've gone through a process there. Or maybe they don't take any of it. Like it's completely optional what they do with that once they've gone through the process. But ultimately it could potentially feed their GM 11 e-portfolio or their GM 12 e-portfolio. For those courses that have had portfolio pieces added to it, like previously examinable courses, this process will replace that. So again, it will be, all of our courses will have the same process included into it. And it's really very much like self-reflective, self-assessment, and just taking a moment to really notice, where they've been and what they want to pull forward in terms of what are the highlights for them through this course learning.
It was a real effort to sort of integrate self-assessment and course wrap-up at the same time in a really practical way, and also give GMs some real content to work with at the GM level and build like a yearly portfolio.
I wonder if there's anything in the chat box worth speaking into the recording. So Allison just mentions that the Guiding Mentor portfolio has learner highlights along with learners' other artifacts.
I just want to make sure thinking, holistically about learners, and that it's not just a reflection of their coursework. Not that that's bad in any way, but we know that they're involved in so many other cool things or taking risks in other ways that don't necessarily show up in a course necessarily. So, honor it.
Great. Thank you so much, Anita. It sounds really exciting. More improvements and streamlining. It's awesome. Okay. So next we're going to speak a little bit to last 10 minutes of our meeting here, upcoming orientations.
Wonderful. Let's start this conversation off. Thank you, Amber. And bring back in that thread of celebration. I've been really enjoying working on a lot of these topics around orientation this year and being in these conversations. And one of the shifts that we're really working on, and this has been growing within our self-design organization for years, and I feel like it's really coming into fruition this year and will continue to over the next few years, but is this analogy of a house, and that all of us, K-12, are actually working on building the same foundation. And in terms of orientation, we want us to start moving into a place where every involved is being oriented the same thing. So we're all here on the foundation, and I'd say even up into that main floor, and we open those beautiful wooden doors, and we are all there being greeted to the same wonderful philosophies and practices within our organization. And I think that's, you know, the heart of what we do and who we are as educators of self-design, whether we are working with, you know, kindergarten learners, whether, you know, and all of these roles, it's pretty beautiful that we have so much. And I think that this element of this foundational baseline of orientation is going to be really, really essential in moving forward. So this is our goal, is that we have this foundation, we have the first floor with these gorgeous wooden doors that we open up and we're all there. And then on the second floor, the goal is that there's a bunch of rooms, depending on what you do and what your role is. And I think that in the past, in my mind, the rooms almost had like concrete walls with very, very tiny windows up top, and we can kind of peer over and say, well, what are you doing over there? But now we're really like, we're lowering those windows and we're making them, or maybe even the glass walls. We want lots of transparency. We want lots of communication between all of these roles. And this is sort of how we're designing our orientations now. So one of the big pieces, I'm kind of jumping around my agenda topic right now, but one of the big pieces that feels a good place to start is, you all know that we have an August orientation every year. And this year's August orientation, we'll be working on, there's a team of us that will be working on this, and it'll include, there's parts of it that will include K-12. So we'll all step in together into this beautiful house of our 2017-2018 learning year. And then we will all also move into these different roles, into these different rooms, and say, oh, I'm going to orient myself now to what it's like to be whatever my role is, a guiding mentor, or a K-9 LC, or a grade 10 LC, or a learning specialist, or a co-design educator. And there'll be opportunities to kind of shift in, or a SEC or a LI. So there's opportunities to kind of shift into these various different rooms, because we recognize that we all wear different hats. But I think that there'll be more transparency than ever this year in our orientation, and in terms of how we're all moving through the roles that we are. And this will really help with communication and help with appreciation for how many of us there are here that hold together such similar pieces. So that's coming at the end of August, as it always does every year. And there will be more information to come from me to each of you about that. I just wanted that seed at the beginning of my little spiel here. Another really important orientation that's coming out is our platform orientation. And I don't know if, David, you want to read this or just speak to it about this for a sentence or two. There's not too much to update on, but I'd love to have your voice in the meeting if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool.
This is, are we talking about the orientation space or the contractor lounge?
Just for the actual updates that you'll be sharing with us around platform orientation, so that like the guided videos and the support there.
I understand. Yeah, I think what we're planning on doing is kind of creating very accessible, a global space for everybody on the platform that everyone will encounter when they first log in to PowerSchool. It will be a general onboarding. Like, there will be slightly different versions for the parent and learner versus us as educators, but it will kind of take the form of short videos and scavenger hunts and a kind of a sort of quiz with hints and stuff like that. So if anyone is experiencing frustration or difficulty, we could actually look at, see, okay, like, have they done these like 1 through 5 basic steps? If not, we can show them that, and they can go through that on their own, self-paced, and then we can kind of sort of mitigate the levels of frustration that always arise when you kind of jump into something new. But there will be obviously additional materials and what we call platform guidelines to go along with different roles that you be using the new platform in. For us as mentors, you will most of you who are still doing courses in Moodle next year will actually only experience the you'll experience PowerSchool as a replacement for the community site. It'll be your front door. It'll be your jumping point to Moodle. It will also be a place where the community, like the learning community, meets. So we're also shutting down First Class. So there's no more segregation of the K-9 program in one space, talking about things that are important, and us having our own random spots. So we're also discontinuing the use of the Google Plus community, and so that's all kind of being consolidated right now. Still under construction, the contractor lounge, and there are different ways for you to get there. But after the July week shutdown, your login to Self-Design Platform will no longer be through the community site. It will be to PowerSchool. Hope that was helpful.
Thanks, David.
Diane has a question in the chat box. Will the DPA be in PowerSchool? Have learners?
So that'll be an exploration. Oh, go ahead, Diane.
Oh, I have learners who are working and halfway through the DPA, including the 3 kids I just met and greeted, and who intend to go through the DPA, which is part of the course, GradTrans course, embedded in ComSite. So if that is going to change, I would like to shift them over now rather than later. What do I do about that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We knew that we needed a new place for DPA, even though there's a very good chance the DPA requirement will only exist for another year while it still is part of GradTrans. We haven't gotten around to making a solution for that, but I'll make that a priority. And Diane, you can just really push me to make sure that that gets addressed before the end of June. And hopefully maybe we can do that in the next couple weeks.
My learner this year wasn't able to successfully track DPA in Moodle, so we made a spreadsheet and we embedded it in his PowerSchool individual class. And so that you can have a look at that, David, if that might be helpful at all.
Yeah, we might go back to individual tracking. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way we previously had been doing it in all of our PE courses as well, before we came up with the DPA actual app within the community site. So we do actually have all the spreadsheets already created for all of those courses. So David, reach out to me if you want me to share all of those with you from our course.
Yeah, particularly we'll need to export the DPA records that are in the app.
Yeah.
So that they're available to the learners.
Awesome. Yeah. Great question, Diane. Thanks for holding that space for GradTrans learners and for PE learners. And thanks, David, for speaking to that. The rest of my topic here is pretty much just announcements that if you are moving into a new role this year, or are part of, like Allison said, guiding mentor, there's a few smaller orientations that will be happening within June, and you'll be receiving emails about those. Most of you have probably already received something, whether it's guiding mentor or learning consultant 10. Those are the 2 that are really up and swinging right now, as are some of the SE orientations. So stay tuned for more details about the deeper orientations we're doing in June, and then the more moving forward orientations that will be happening together in August. And I see a hand from Travis.
I was just curious. I filled out that form very recently about my interest, about my desire for my contract in the coming year. And as I'm sure you know, my position has always been kind of unique because I have a lot of SECs or parents and learners wanting me to be their SEA. So my question for you is okay if I come to those orientations just to see what those roles are like, just to get more information? Like, am I able to attend those things even if I haven't officially committed to some of those new roles?
That's a beautiful question, actually, Travis, especially with my invitation that we're trying to lower those windows and get people to actually understand what all these other roles are doing. The orientations themselves are very specific to how the people within those roles will be functioning. So it's not necessarily the best place to advertise what the role will be like. However, I think that you've just come up with a really nice invitation for me to maybe work with some of the leads in these areas to have really nice, clear descriptions. We have role documents this year that actually really nicely outline the duties of all of these roles. That might be something that we might want to share with SEAs, for instance, or maybe even just having one. I'm visualizing just a document right now with a role on the left and a description on the right, and any sort of Google Docs that might help to educate SEAs as to who these people are and what they do and why they do it. Does something like that sound helpful for you?
That would be fantastic. Yes, please. Because I don't know if there are a lot of SEAs with us right now, but it's a very demanding role. It takes up a big chunk of my time, and if that's where people need me, then I should probably give priority to that.
Thanks, Travis. Well, I'd like to hold that right up here while I continue creating some of these orientation, not only documents, but also like working on a greater orientation platform right now. So I'll carry that forward. I'm going to make a big note to myself. That's a wonderful point.
All right, thank you.
I added that in the notes there.
Thank you so much. So the last little bit from today is pretty much just announcements, and I know we've got a tiny bit over time, so thank you all so much. The announcements can be read. The reminder can also be read, and there's a really nice reminder about the system-wide shutdown that we added in, and a link so that you can actually stay updated on the status of. There's a status website that Paul and David have shared with us here. So we mentioned that everything will be shut down July 10th to 17th. However, there's some services that will be going up and down after July 17th until the end of the month. So they said we'll keep people posted here. Our entire IT team is working pretty hard these days with all of these updates, and that's another team that we should just take a moment to say thank you to. So that's, yeah, familiarize yourself with those updates within the end of the agenda. And I threw in a little inspiration for you as well. At the beginning of the agenda, I was speaking to the idea of really being present and recognizing that, it's easy to look in the past or wonder what's happening in the future, but this moment, this is the one. This is the one that really is going to count. And we actually will never receive another one like it, right? That's a pretty nice thought. So while we close this meeting, maybe take your hands away from your computer and just have a moment of gratitude, again, for everyone in the space, for this wonderful learning year that you've had, and for this moment that you are in right now. And I hope that you can all just take a moment at the end of the meeting at some point during your day to click on that TED Talk that I shared from David Steinbrast, who is a Benedictine monk and interfaith scholar, and has some really beautiful words to share about gratitude. And that was sort of what inspired that weave of celebration today that we are trying to have within this specific meeting. So I'm happy opening up the floor to any questions in a few moments. A lot of the time in the agenda, I did share a little blurb saying, if you have questions about this, contact this person, and usually it's the person that spoke, right? That's pretty obvious. However, sometimes there was announcements, right? Like the exams announcements, contact our exams team, and please do follow up with questions to me if you're not quite sure who to speak to, or if you have specific questions about anything that happened today. Amber and I would be so happy to chat about that.
Yeah, and it's a really great opportunity that we have Angela in our meeting too. Like if you have questions about grade 10, I was surprised that there weren't like 15 questions about the grade 10 program, but she's here, and
that shows that the updates have been super helpful and the information is getting out there. Right on. Thank you, Amber.
Okay, one question in the chat box from Megan regarding guiding mentor for Allison.
Yes. Do we direct learners to a registration form for GM selection? It's a bit of $1 million question as we're just working out this protocol. Finally. I'd actually say direct them to me, just if it's going to be right away. There is the admin will be taking any enrollments, any new enrollments for the year, and they will all automatically, for grade 11 and 12, automatically then be asked to fill out a little form that tells me a little bit about who they are, so then I can do the matching. But if there's something really immediate right now, just send them to me, because I still haven't seen that form yet, that spreadsheet, and I don't want to lose anybody. It's coming. We're almost there. It's just tying up the admin, the protocol, so it's a closed loop.
Thanks, Allison. So maybe would it be a good idea, Sarah, if we close the meeting and thank everyone, and then we can stay on a little longer for those who want to ask a few more questions, just out of respect for people's time?
Yeah, as long as Heather's question is it one that Amber and I could answer, or is it directed to someone else?
I think you and Amber could probably handle it.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you everyone for going a little over today. Wow, and Westworth meeting, there's a lot of great sharing, and yeah, we just really appreciate your time, and have a wonderful June moving forward. June 1st, isn't that amazing?
Thanks, Amber and Sarah, for doing this so beautifully, and thanks everyone for being here this morning and this year. It's been a good one.
Thank you.
Certainly have.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Oh.